Got it? Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. I have just switched screens here. We can go ahead and start our October 9th Finance Committee meeting. Any objections to our agenda today? Been pretty open because I know we just want to get an update from Dr. Robbins and Ms. Vignay on some things, all things finance. I know some ESSER type stuff is what we're looking at. Okay. So I will turn it over to you guys.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Farnsworth, Ms. Crosby, Mr. Guthrie. I will just quickly with the agenda. I'll go over kind of where we are with the ESSER funding, what that means for us, how we utilized that last year with our recruiting retention efforts, and then where are we with recruiting retention, what we're looking at, what we want to bring to the table as we start working on, those plans for the following school year. And that starts now for us, and then just maybe a quick 24-25 budget season preview. Felt like if we could start getting this on the docket once a month earlier, give you all a chance to digest some of the information and make some informed decisions. So with that being said, I'll pause and I'll turn it over for at least an ESSER update from Tina, and then I'll kind of hit some of the recruiting retention stuff as well.
Okay. So good afternoon, board members. Dr. Robbins. Last year, we, in the month of June, we did pay out our retention bonus for our employees. We used the ESSER 3 funding. We were able to look at our funds and see if when we projected those out, if we were able to carve out some money for our retention bonus. So we were able to do that. So we paid out for the teaching staff, $3.5 million, and for the support staff, $2.2 million. Everyone received a $2,000 retention bonus. So that affected our ending balances for units. Moving forward into this year, we have through September of 24 to utilize the remainder of our funds. After the bonus was paid out, we carried over $17.7 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but $7 million of that was allocated towards HVAC for clean air. That was approved in the ESSER spending plan that y'all approved a long time ago. We kept that. We wanted to be sure to keep that in even when we prepared the amendment. So with some of those spending pots that we still had carried over, we're purchasing educational technology, mental health services and support with our contract with Dorchester County Jail. We also hired our own internal social workers. We have 9 for this year. We're also continuing our after-school programs for tutoring, Saturday schools, again, continue to help with that learning loss where we feel like we are making efforts, definitely making efforts. So have a little ways to go with some of our scores. Tutors, air quality, and also we're able to use indirect costs that will move their one-time funds that will go into the general fund. So that's how we're spending our $17.7 million. We were going to look to see if we had any remaining funds left. Maybe we could use another amendment, but it just feels too close. I think we're going to look for some other funding sources to try that we wouldn't be able to use ESSER $3 for another retention bonus. So that's basically what I wanted to talk to y'all about as far as the ESSER.
So the big chunk of that is for HVAC work, which you all know we need really bad in some of our facilities. The problem is we haven't been able to necessarily spend it because we're having a hard time on the back order of parts and equipment, for those projects. So I think you probably saw what happened at Newington Elementary School and a couple other places where we had to do some portables in there. And it's not because we don't want to do the work and we don't have the money to do it. It's just because we don't have the equipment to put in place. So, but it's pretty tight in terms of the plan with the remaining funds for ESSER.
Apologies, this ESSER. So that was ESSER 3, roughly 17.7 million. Correct. ESER 1 and 2 have been exhausted
Correct.
completely, okay.
And of course, we were well past the deadline for ESER 1, and ESER 2 was
September
September
30th of 23, so we just passed it.
how they extend it. We still have another year, or we have another year for ESER 3.
Can we, so 17.7 is already essentially been spoken for, right?
Yes.
We can get that breakdown. There's,
Yeah. If we were ever, and it's locked in for us to, correct me if I'm wrong, Tina, but for us to modify any of these ESER plans, we would have to go back out for public input to modify the plan.
right, which we did that once or twice. We've done
Yeah.
that.
You probably
We
have.
did it with ESER 3 in the spring, whenever we carved out the money for the retention bonuses.
It sounds like, I know there's talk about teacher bonuses at some point. So that's something that's still on the table, but just not out of ESER.
Yeah.
So we'll look at some other creative ways.
Yep.
Maybe to make that happen.
So that is.
Leads right into our next section
That's
of
right
the
into
agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. That's into the next piece, recruiting and retention efforts. So what we would like to do is, and we do think because of, there is going to be some surplus based on forecast projections that are in place. So what we'd like to do is put some on retention. I'd like to see us get to a point where the retention bonus is, it's never going to be as probably to the amount as we did last year. But we've worked on some hearing plans that we would like to present you all. So, you're going to receive X amount of dollars for your first 0 to 5 years. And then when you hit that 6-year mark, 6 to 10, it goes up. 11 to 15, 16 to 20, and then 21. But it would be something we could consistently budget for. So we're looking at that. And then also, obviously the signing bonuses, we'll need to bring to you pretty quick. That's something that we would like to, keep in our budget moving forward because that helps us during recruiting season. And several of the other districts are using that. So if we go to these recruiting fairs without that as a carrot, then we're really putting ourselves behind the 8 ball when it comes to recruiting. Retention is a little bit different. Our pay is not as far off as what some people would think when it comes to salary scales, but once we get them in the doors, you all know, you live here, we typically keep, we may lose a couple, but I'm always reminded that we've got 1,680 teachers. So that's going to happen, from time to time. But so we would like to work on a plan that has the signing bonuses, excuse me, still in place, and then what a scaled down retention bonus would look like and what that would cost us in our cash reserves. Good. Then there's another piece of that I've already started working on. One of the challenges that a lot of districts have is that they'll look at their salary schedule and they will address the salary schedule and somewhat forget about the other pieces that exist with the salaries, and that is your club sponsors, your coaching stipends, or all your ECAs. And so from my world, where I come from, when we collectively bargain, we look at that as a unit together. And so the one way to do that is to create indexes for these positions. These indexes are tied to the first year teacher salary. And so anytime we raise the salary schedule, it also has an effect on the ECA stipend schedule. When it goes up, that index times that first year teaching salary goes up, and so your coaching and club sponsor stipends go up as well. Then you can look and see, okay, if we want to put $4 million in salaries, all right, it's like, how does that work? What's that going to equate to each teacher and to the ECA stipend schedule? Because you've got to consider that. Just like when you look at $4 million, you've got to calculate in fact 30% or more is also tied to their benefits. And so it's not a straight $4 million into that bottom line salary. There's other things that are taken into consideration. So we would like to work on that as well and kind of present, okay, this is what this would look like. Just like last year when we did this, we knew we were investing around $16 million into bonuses, signing bonuses, retention bonuses, and salary increases for our teachers.
So would there be like an initial, obviously the coaching stipend we haven't touched in forever, so would there be like obviously initial bring it where we want it, and then from that point forward?
I think what I'm trying to do right now is I took it where it stands and I created the index. And then it's easier when you look at indexes and not dollar amounts, and then look at the index and say, okay, we want to adjust these indexes. What does that do to the dollar amount?
So I was just wondering if we we're gonna increase that separate, because, if we wait to
Yeah.
first
Yeah,
before we
Yeah,
do
so
it in combination with the general.
I'm pretty visual, but if
Okay,
you
yeah.
can look at,
Same.
it's the same thing. If you look at just, let's say $10,000 and the index is 0.15, that 10,000 times that 0.15 gives you the stipend, right? So we adjust the index that way. Whenever 10,000 goes up, then equivocally, so does that stipend. But yeah, we need to take a look at that, but also we need to make sure, okay, how much dollars do we want? We might not be able to fix the ECA schedule this first go around completely, but we can definitely make a start. So we've looked at, just so you know, Mr. Doherty and I both had to bargain contracts in our previous lives, and we've looked at what some of the other districts in our area, what their stipends are in comparison to what our stipends are, so we have a pretty good idea.
Okay.
We got some catch up to do.
Just like other districts though, some are higher and some are lower, some are about the same, so
I'd say one's comparable to our
some of them.
size and our
Yes.
financial situation. I feel like
Yes.
our coaching stipend is typically lower than
Yeah.
comparable districts.
It is, but again, that's okay. It gives us a benchmark to work from to at least start addressing it. And I think that's all our teachers want, all our staff wants.
Absolutely.
They just want to know we're looking at it and that it won't be one of these, okay, you're addressing it this year, but in 5 years, we're back down to where we were. I'm hopeful to bring you an idea of, here's a suggestion that'll allow us to at least make ground and not lose ground moving forward.
That's my biggest thing, is seeing like across the board, kind of us get everything more into the realm of where we should be, and then work on those increases throughout, like as a whole, rather than.
It's a hard race, or increasing
Yes.
errors too.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things that I think is helpful is about a decade ago when I started using the cash flow report, is it will allow you all to start working sooner on the budget based off of projections and where you think you are, so that we can start plugging numbers. We don't have to wait. We can set our budget calendar, our official budget calendar, but that doesn't keep us from running scenarios.
Sure, based on the fund balance,
Budget,
what's coming in,
right.
what's coming out.
Our cash flow expectations, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good if you start to look at it as an index, right? Because then you can just have percentages. The only thing I think you have to be careful of is to make sure we're looking at it apples to apples.
Right.
Because even like if you look at number of personnel, I know we've dug into coaching in the past.
Yeah.
And the number of personnel is kind of out of whack with comparable districts.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think you should have to kind of be careful.
In this schedule, so that allows us to do that. So in the schedule, it allows us to identify every single position. And let's just call it what it is. In our district, we're really top heavy in the number of paid football coaches we have in comparison to other districts. And so it's just a decision that, hey, all right, are we going to try to reset ourselves, to make sure that it's apples to apples in terms of the number of staff we have in these football programs. Now, part of that is it will correct itself a little bit. That's because we're bringing back middle school sports. So what we did is we elevated these coaches into these high school programs. We eliminated the middle school programs, and we'll put it back down. So, but yeah, that'll be helpful to look at, dissecting, each of those programs and working with our athletic directors and Coach Draper, what that looks like. But it'll allow us to say, okay, this is the amount of money we have, and then, as a committee, you all have to decide what percentage of that do you want to devote to, resetting the ECA stipend schedule, and what percentage of that do you want to put into salaries, understanding it's not just teacher salaries, it's also our classified staff salaries as well. Yeah.
And using that cash flow statement, I'll just throw out there that I'll have to be sure and be clear that some of those dollars that we're projecting are one-time dollars. They may not be continuing dollars.
On your general fund cash flow, are they? You put them in there? Put the one time?
Our ESSER indirect costs have been coming over to general fund balance. Those are one-time dollars.
Until you move it out. But
We move from ESSER into general fund.
But what you could do is you could put another, you could easily put another column in there that subtracts that out. to
I was
give
gonna
you a
say,
real-
could you do that?
A real, you know what I mean? A real world.
Like
That's what I was saying. I
actual,
just wanted to,
continual,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I said. I wanted to be sure
What's
that we did that.
actually available
Yeah.
versus what's not.
like
already spent.
one-time
Yeah.
monies.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
Separate column.
Yeah.
Yeah, just an
That
extra column.
Just removes, calculates and removes that.
Because what you don't want to do is put yourself into a false sense of surplus, and then the
It's
following
not
year, it's
continuing
not.
I think that'd be
Yeah.
helpful, just from here on out, always have in general, not just for this specific reason, but thinking about increasing spending on anything now,
Yeah.
what our residual money is versus.
So some of the residual money that you don't see, like for example, as those dollars, that revenue increases, there is a natural increase in expense as well. So for example, we may get more money because of an increased APM, but we're really not getting more money because we're also increasing staff, that.
The resource it takes for.
And of course, you've said it an awful lot, and that's where we get hurt because of the funding.
Sure.
So
Keep adding students and then we do not add revenue.
only ATM revenue that just doesn't pay for the student itself, so, yeah.
Recruiting retention, all good? All good? The only thing in the last piece I was gonna say, recruit retention, if we can, is you go, and really anyone, as we look around the country, because I think we're gonna have to find some out of the box creative ideas for recruiting and retention.
Yeah.
So anything that we want to bring in the district, let's look at it, because I think we're all open to it. But we need to know sooner than later.
Okay, I want to pitch.
Like non-monetary or?
I sent Dr. Robbins a list of.
She did,
Yeah.
she did. So,
Anything.
one of them is student loan. I will tell you, we're kind of vetting that. We're a little concerned about the student loan is, not that, we'll definitely look into it, but we just want to make sure it doesn't fragment our staff. But one of the other things that I think we should consider, and I brought it up in a teacher cabinet meeting, and then they followed up with me on it, and that is, as we see a rollover in our staff, and we start to have this youth movement, and knowing our community the way I know our community, you all know better than me, and that is, there is such a lack of childcare that we have lost a few teachers that have said, I can't find childcare, and so I'm just gonna have to stay home. So I would really like to see us, we're doing the after school care, that's great. I think it's been very beneficial to our employees, but I would like to see us maybe take that Gavans facility and turn it into our own child care facility. What that would encompass, and I'm not certain, I will tell you that Ms. Powell and I met with whatever that group is out at Gavans, and they said, we just want to see this utilized. There were some other things too that they talked about, but And so I pitched the idea and I said, hey, we had mentioned, they said, that'd be awesome. You know, so anything that would put kids and make that thing functional. So, you know, I've heard people say, well, it's awful far away, but I'll tell you, it's 3 miles from my house to that location in the ponds. And there's a lot of young families in the ponds. And the only reason it's 3 miles is because I live 1.5 miles in the back of the ponds. So it's really only about 1.5 miles or so from that entrance. So, you know, things like that is something that we can look at. But yeah, Ashley sent me a list of things. What I thought we would do is maybe start populating those, and because recruiting season for us is going to start in about 6 weeks. Because we start looking at mid-year graduates and, you know, trying to really incentivize them into coming into our district. So I love the idea. I really think just a smorgasbord of ideas that we look at and say, all right, what can we support and what would be beneficial to our employees?
Random side note, because you just had me thinking about it, at my high school, and I don't know if we would even have the capacity to do this, but growing up, we had our early childhood and development students who wanted to go into that, and or teacher cadets who actually did childcare within the school for a select, like they capped it at a certain amount, but that was something we offered and was really neat, so.
You know, we did that in Indiana. It's a problem in South Carolina. Because to do that in South Carolina, you have to be certified to do it, and DHEC will not allow anyone
Such a
under
great
8.
opportunity.
I know, it won't allow. That's why we went to the kind of 2-pronged LEAP program, is because I was trying to stay compliant with a grant, and I can do it, where DHEC said you just can't.
Yeah, it's like right,
Yeah.
high school,
Yep.
our high school parents or teachers would drop their kid off in the classroom that have a whole.
Now, with a child care facility with an adult there, I don't know. So
They
those
had,
are-
they had an adult.
Yeah, so it may be a possibility. I mean, I'm going to say it isn't.
And then allow them to stay compliant with the ratios,
Uh-huh.
you know, with the students in there and whatnot, but they had to have like a certified adult.
Did you email that to me or text me?
Got texted. I can resend it too.
Well, I was going to just read it.
Some of them was like
It was a
renting
good list.
discounts.
Some of the, one of the things that I mentioned that was brought to me was bereavement.
Yeah.
Whether or not we do any type of like, you know, days off, paid days off for that, I think that's something worth considering.
Okay, we can look at that. Definitely.
And then, I think along with the, student loan support, but also just education,
Financial literacy.
the literacy, the education support, because I think there are a lot of things out there, but trying to figure them out and kind of navigate that can get tricky. So if we had some sort of way to support just by giving information and that sort of thing, Habitat could tie into that too, because I know there's a lot of opportunities there for teachers.
You know, we could build that into Classroom Mosaic. Yeah, I knew you're back here. Could we build a course like that into Schoology? We could make a Schoology course. Yeah, we could do I like that. Here was another one that I would definitely, we're kind of pretty far down this rabbit hole with the calendars, but building parent-teacher conference days into the calendar.
Yeah.
So one of the things that in my last district we did was that. And I had to fight a little bit, but I fought to make it a learning. And so if you think
I mean,
about
that's a
it,
big deal because
Yeah.
teachers spend their free
Yep,
time
yep.
and they don't have much of that. But they have to make those work. And
I
so
agree.
that's a huge chunk of time for them, you know?
it takes we would have to definitely say, okay, this is what I know our teachers love it. But we could build it into the calendar. And again, those conferences are spread out. You know, usually you have date count, a date calendar, and then you have an evening for those evening working parents. But you can build in, an e-learning day into that and count it as an instructional day. So that way it is a big day. I definitely like that one. So, but we can make a running list and kind of say, all right, here's where we are, and here, each one of these, here's the cost
Right.
that would be associated with it, and
The one I'll throw out there, and again, I know some people do not like it. I happen to think it would be a game changer, is a 4-day week.
We've been talking about it. I'm not for that at all.
I haven't, just so you all know, I didn't pitch you under the bus, but when my teacher cabinet said, well, what about a two-year calendar? I said, well, would like me to look at a 4-day school week. So it is out there. People do know.
I mean, I think just looking at
And
it.
we just want to look at it, but how do you
Yeah.
think your teacher cabinet kind of, were they like, oh my gosh, don't do that?
Oh,
at all?
no.
They're like,
Yeah, now you gotta understand though, they're my positive, they're my, hey, I'm willing to do anything if it's good for kids. So,
I think that's
but what
amazing.
I did tell them was, I said, the first thing we need to do is, and I've already started compiling some information, but is to go visit communities that have gone through it. It's an 18-month process. To be honest with you, we would probably get through next year and maybe be ready the following year, or maybe even another year before we can really get to that. But, yeah, absolutely. It's right now. Chad, was it you that looked into how, would you say, what was the numbers? Didn't you say there were like X amount of districts that were into doing this now?
Yeah, I think I sent you an article on that.
Yeah.
It's out of the majority amount of Texas.
Yeah, a lot out of Texas and then some out west, but it's starting to migrate. And of course, one of the reasons they started doing this, and actually Chad and I worked in the same district about 15 years ago, and they started looking at it was to save money.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say the operational costs, could that
Yeah.
also like help
Yeah.
us increase teacher salaries on top of the
Yeah.
4-day week, because we would have a savings of.
You guys have no idea how much money we spend.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, if you think, I mean, I can imagine my husband's in maintenance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's,
You also gotta think about how it affects the kids. Kids are losing that day of learning. I'm telling you, every day they can get.
But they're not, because you add the hours
to the day.
to the day, the 4 days.
Those little ones can't stand it.
Yeah, well, we talked about adding an extra recess for elementary potentially, because it would break, it's extra 45 minutes to an hour a day, and if you had an extra 20-minute recess in there to break up the day, a morning recess, an afternoon recess. It would be-
Just remember, one of the other reasons that those school districts in Texas started going into this concept was the same reason that we're trying to go to a modified balanced calendar, and that is to limit summer breaks and learning loss. And so it's not just lengthening the day, it is, you're only going to school for 4 days, you still have to go to school for 180. And so those 4 days now are spread out across a longer period of time, so it reduces the amount of long breaks that they have.
Okay, so it would still have to be 180
Yep.
days, even if you add the hour,
Yeah.
like. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it's still days, it's.
I just thought that would reduce the amount of days, because you're still adding the hours, so
No.
it is something to think about.
Yeah, that's,
Dr. Robbins, there's 900 school districts in the United States currently using a 4-day work week. And then the number rose from 650 in 2020. So
I definitely want more data on the student, how it affects students, because I see both. Like, I've researched it honestly a bajillion times, like on and off, and I see very mixed, like, data on that. So I'd be interested to see.
the articles I've read.
Some are like,
It's about.
students declined, and some of them are like, students' behavior got better, test scores increased. So I'd like to see some like actual.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. We'll look into it, definitely. It's just gonna take a little time. We're gonna have to project plan this and create benchmarks for you and say, all right, we want to look and see if this is a viable option. My goal is to spend this year and maybe take a couple of trips, which I think is a good use of time and money, is to go in and sit down and talk to the people that actually did it and have conversations. I don't think you can email somebody and do research that way. I think you have to do some of that one-on-one.
We did it up north just at high school.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
So we do 4-day work week in the summer with our employees, already. So, we do lengthen the day for them. It is a little different rationale. So, yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways to do it, versus lengthening the school day. So, yeah. I know where I'm on, I promise. We'll look into it. Exciting.
Budget season preview, 24-25.
Yeah, so honestly, that's what we kind of opened up with was I'd really like to start getting numbers out in front of you earlier. So we can start making some decisions as we move forward. It will be helpful. Tina's got a meeting with Daniel Prentice next week.
Not till November.
Oh, November. Give us an idea of, just tax season for them and tax bills that are going out versus their forecasts. And we were talking before the meeting started, and one of the challenges that they have is the same challenge we have, and that is they set a budget and it's based on a forecast, but just drive around our community, and so their numbers are higher, versus what they're forecasting for the same reasons ours are. So she's going to try to,
We'll try to true it up a little bit better because the projections they gave us back in March probably don't reflect what the bills that were sent out in October. So we could have some savings. So for FY23, when we get our audit report, you'll see that we received a lot more in local property taxes than were originally projected. And so over the course of a year, and we didn't know, we just went by what the county projected. So now, those dollars will continue to dollars. We can definitely true that up sooner rather than later. So I'm glad that we're going to meet. So I'm hopeful for that meeting.
So that's what we call it, a budget, right?
Sure.
That's right. That's right.
This isn't necessarily it. This is kind of a budget / facilities, but I just want to share with you all. So we own property, and some of that property, we think that we probably need to keep our hands on over by SPAN in the event, we tear down, rebuild, stretch out, whatever we do over at SPAN. But there is the ball field over by SPAN that used to be ball field, and one of the houses on Joyce Lane, and then there's 20 acres that are, where's that at? Bridalwood. That I drove out there. There's really no chance that we would ever build out there. I would really like to liquidate those properties and then take whatever revenue we get from that and put it in a future projects account. So let's say once we get to a point where we're going to add on a wing, or maybe we get to a point where we are going to build a facility, we've got seed money that allows us to get started. Or the other thing is if we have to actually spend money, which we're probably going to purchase property, to build for something over in the Ashley River area because of Watson Hill, and there's no property set aside for that. Justin and I have had some conversations with Kenny Skipper and Mayor Sumney about, can you find us some property? They're looking. I mean, they are looking, but that's probably one piece of property. If we need multiple, I would say let's try to get our hands on some property. I know Ashley and Justin and I were in a meeting on Friday, and I looked at a piece of property with Chris Ackerman that may be a possibility for us. I just haven't talked. I haven't shared it with you all, and I haven't. They're kind of pushing that farmer wants to see the land. So, but that seed money would allow us to be in a position to purchase land if we needed to for our future site that's conducive to where our growth is. Right now, we own some of this stuff that it's just that.
The one, you said it's 20 acres in Bridalwood. I would just be concerned, because we could build a school there, and you have Gavans area, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if you drive out there, I drove out there Friday, that's a long ways. And there's
They
nothing.
said, when they gave us the land, it was said that we can't build a school till you get the kids. And there's not enough kids there to build a school.
Yeah, there's not, it's pretty,
We have the land that we have the deed to the land in Bridalwood.
Why would you have to wait until there's?
Yeah, we have a deed.
That doesn't make sense.
There's not gonna be any neighborhoods running up there.
You're saying it's the distance, I think she means because of the distance, you're talking about just because of the location? Or is that what you mean? You mean just because of how far out it is? Or,
Well, that was a piece of land that when they started that subdivision, if y'all recall, that said, they were gonna give us this land. But Mr. Pye kept saying, well, we appreciate it, but we can't build a school until we get some kids, and there's not enough kids out there to take care of the, building the school.
How far is that from like the upper part of our district?
It's 10
It's
minutes.
just at the, it's right at the deal just before line.
I know, I'm talking like some of the upper where we have a lot of our growth, because.
It's out there, it's in here.
I'm a North Charleston person, so you gotta give me like,
If you go to Givens,
Unfortunately, a part of our growth is like center north.
yeah,
This is to the left, and there's swamp through the middle of it.
uh-huh.
So where our growth is, it can't really help us because it's isolated. There's only about 300 to 400 students in that area right now. So to try to build a school would be,
you go to
Would that be
Givens.
a high school in the area? Or-
Kelly, if you ever want to go out there, just go to Givens, and you get to the fork, and right, and just keep going until you see houses on the
Yeah, it's
left.
closer to Ridgeville.
Yeah, it's right on the fork, on
We
Dorchester.
start our
30 minutes
shack
from
over
here.
there and do something
It's
where we have
Dorchester,
our-
it's right on the Dorchester fork line.
Or
So
give
far
in,
away.
or our, don't you mention, or if big meetings. Very.
Shane, that's right on the Dorchester fork line.
I mean, we can keep our hands on it.
Take 5 more steps and you'll be in Dorchester.
When I drove it, I didn't,
I think if we, for me, again, I'm one person, but if we have the opportunity for something else that we need more, that suits us better, Watson Hill, 61 corridor, absolutely. But until we know that, until we know, like, hey, here's what's it gonna cost.
Right, don't get rid of what we have until we have something like
Well,
that.
there is nowhere else to build in summer, because I'm in Mr. Pine saying there's only a couple of places left because either the wetlands or whatever, there's not.
We already have
Did you
Givens
go to
there.
the county to like?
Givens,
rezone
turn that to a
certain
school.
things
It's a
potentially?
small site though.
you know, the problem with Gavans, Evan, is it's only 4 acres. And, I don't think you want to build on it, according to Tony, because of what happened to it.
Flooding up there.
Flooding, yeah,
That's 1,000 years, that 1,000 years.
it wiped it out, so,
You never know.
but 4 acres is really hard even for an elementary school. I mean, there's no place for a playground.
Really tall.
I mean, you build it really
Playground,
tall.
Oh my gosh, that'd be a lot.
Building those stills.
I have been in conversation with the town about the ball field. They've got $10 million to split their police department and their fire department. And so their planner came down, and the possibility of the ball field, if that would be a location for them because of the access to Berlin G, we could get some money out of it. So I'm just throwing those things out there of a couple of things we're looking at as we try to figure out a way to get some seed money to purchase property if we need to purchase property. Or the other thing we can do with it is let's say Kenny and Mayor Sumney find property for us, but we still have to do the due diligence survey. I mean, obviously we pay for it, but if you have it in a future projects account, then we can just use that money to pay for some of these surveys. Of course, you guys probably saw my note. I did meet with the 55 Miller folks in the ponds. It's a great meeting. They were awesome. Treated Heather and I like gold. And they really, really, really are hoping we put a school in out there. I told them where we were. I told them that we had to redo the due diligence and the geotechnical surveys. And they didn't realize that 36 of that 40 acres is ours now. So they thought it was still 23. So, you know, hopefully we'll have some information for you. There's a piece on the due diligence survey that requires the owner to sign off on a couple things. And Tony was having a hard time getting that name. So when we were out looking at other properties, I'm like, okay, well, just pull into my subdivision and take me back to Colder. And I walked in and so I got the owner's name, and so Tony's reaching out to him to fill out the little owner survey portion, and then our due diligence will be complete. So more to follow on that.
So getting into like land use, future use, all that sort of stuff, does it make sense? And again, I'm not trying to throw anything out there that's an overwhelming task, but can we get maybe an executive at a high level? Here's the land, here's what you're thinking, here's the land we own, here's some options.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that'd be beneficial.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah, well, I can put a little snapshot together and include some of the other things that we're doing, you know, like here's somebody and some other folks to try to find some properties. So you'll see it. We have to go too far down a rabbit hole here on this committee meeting, but we got our demographic survey, our study back. And so you'll be able to see it. And those are what I would consider to be conservative forecasting. But still, you'll see the growth. The reason I say that is one of the things we're going to ask you to take a look at that he can't see is the fact that, and we talked about it in cabinet today, and that is we have, I don't know, 600-700 preschool students. Well, they take up seats in classroom space. So there's another 700 students. I just had a meeting about the Yerby tract, which is 1,600 homes. He can't see that because it's not an approved development agreement yet. So those that exist, we know are out there, which will alter those numbers in the future. So we need to try to triangulate our data, see his data points, see our predictive analytics data points, and then our conversations with the county data points to see where they intercede. So, yeah.
Did we have any left at the right?
Ask about land out by Ashton Bridge. I
I
don't
don't
think,
think-
other than what
Up there.
we have,
No, but
there's nothing extra.
the land that Todd mentioned, that's on your way out. It's a farmer owns land there on.
Oh, yeah.
That side, yeah. So,
Past Ashton Bridge, there's no subdivision yesterday.
homecoming, yeah.
It's another,
Did you send us new update? You said in your notes. I don't see it.
We can get it.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
which one?
This weekend? The soup update this weekend?
What are you talking about?
A soup update?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said no, we both.
We're both like,
we
wait,
missed
what?
something.
Because, you know, we read everything. Did y'all get it? Maybe you didn't get it. So I was confused, so I just was like,
Maybe just didn't come through.
I don't think we got one.
I don't think you
I
did
just
this
double
weekend.
checked.
Okay.
Last week.
Okay,
that's
I'm just
fine.
making
No,
sure I'm
because
not.
you said it in my note, and then I thought, did I?
Yeah.
Like,
it was
did I
a-
miss it?
That's fine.
No, you did.
It's okay. All right.
I don't
I
like to
just
miss
said
stuff.
think for a second, I'm like,
Sorry.
yeah, the Yerby track was in the week.
Yes,
Yes,
I
that
remember the
was-
Erie
that I
track, and I remember you talked about the land
Yeah.
there. and-
Sorry.
Okay,
It's
yeah, you're fine. No, I thought I.
But yeah, we'll put something together. I think that'd be good, a snapshot of, okay, here's what we're looking at, because this obviously is not a quick process. Plus, Tina and I will have a conversation, December.
That's okay.
We've got a meeting scheduled with our financial advisor in December, so we ought to be able to give you some idea of where we are in terms of debt. We're planning to, so.
Perfect.
Good things, good, honestly, good. But don't want to be too preliminary in what we think he's going to share with us.
All right.
Anything else?
Did you discuss the ESSER and what, okay, I guess I'll just go watch it.
No,
We can fill you in.
yeah.
Okay.
Get all the notes. All good?
Yeah.
Everybody good? Anything else for the good of the group? All right.
Thank you,
We
guys.
shall adjourn. We'll see everybody at 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's do it. No way we got through.
You know,